Hello and welcome to DNBC TV, where we bring you interviews with leaders in the world of business, information, and technology. I'm Linda Tamim, and today I have the pleasure to welcome Dr. Manal Abdel Samad. She is the Caretaker Information Minister in Lebanon. Welcome, Dr. Manal. One striking fact in Lebanon is we have several media outlets, each one of them, of course, representing a certain political group. And as a result, some people often receive biased information. Some information is even censored, as you know. And the public doesn't always have access to transparent information. And in fact, not one media source in this country can be trusted. What is the Information Ministry doing to tackle this issue?
Thank you, Linda, for this information, for this question. As you mentioned, we have a diversification of media outlets and media platforms, and this is healthy for any country or any environment to have several point of views, to have several media outlets, unless they are working in a biased way or they are working in a misleading way, and this definitely it hurts the whole country and the whole population, because it leads to fake news that also. We should differentiate between misinformation and disinformation, and most of the time disinformation leads to a lot of problems. And when we talk about COVID, it leads also to death when we mislead people into this fake news. In my point of view, diversification is healthy, but diversification should not lead to conflicts and should not lead to these debates and this defamation. And this is a crime if we go into our relevant laws. What I believe is the Ministry of Information works hard, first of all, on implementing a modern law of media that can have modern provisions and that can highlight the major standards needed for any journalist or for any media to work within. And I believe that also media outlets, they have their own role and responsibility, because in this case, it's not about having a good media law to have a good media environment. We should work on what's called the self-control or self-assessment or self-monitoring for each journalist and each media outlet. And I believe also that these media outlets, they are labeled by people through their trustworthy information, through their credibility. And one day we will reach a point where these media outlets are classified between good media and bad media, and people will follow with the good media, especially that we have now online media, and we have these IPTV like yourselves, and we have different social media platforms that can play a major role in classifying themselves based on the quality of information they are spreading in the society. So the Ministry of Information has a major role nowadays, especially during crises, and one of them is confronting COVID-19 crisis, when we were the first to create a website to monitor every information related to COVID-19 and to consolidate this information so that people can refer to one single platform that is trustworthy and can get the reliable source of information. Also, to curb fake news, we managed to work on different conferences in partnership with multinational organizations like UNICEF, WHO, UNDP, and UNESCO, in order also to pinpoint some recommendations for curbing fake news, especially that is killing nowadays when we talk about corona or any health issue. And still now, for example, in 2 days we'll be organizing a conference with media outlets, televisions, radios, and digital media and newspapers to work on the access to information law and what has been applied and what's not, and what are the obstacles in implementing this law or putting it into force. So we need to hear from these journalists, from experts about the obstacles that they are facing to implement or to apply this law. And this will be an interesting also stage in having more transparency in ensuring better investigative journalism when it comes to knowing more about corruption files, knowing more about what needs to be done to ensure good governance and good voice and accountability area.
Can some of these media outlets be penalized for spreading false information?
To be honest, we have already penalties that are mentioned in in the current media law, but this media law is outdated based on the development that took place in the media field. And the major drawback in these provisions or penalties is that they are levied by the Ministry of Information, while they should be levied by a judge or a tribunal. So our basic amendment request or proposal was to shift this prerogative from the Ministry of Information to a specialized tribunal that takes care of all media lawsuits and that takes place of all media concerns. And if we go to the role of the Ministry of Information nowadays regarding all this mess in media, we are trying, and we used to have a lot of talks with different stakeholders and relevant parties in the media industry, basically through town hall meetings and through conferences to open up the debate about what is required for a good media today, what is required to have this healthy and credible let's say infrastructure that can build a good journalism environment and that can reflect the reality and reflect what is true and what is fake.
A lot of activists and journalists are sometimes questioned and detained for expressing their opinion publicly. Would you say that we have freedom of press and expression in Lebanon?
Saying we have freedom of expression, definitely we have it, and we have it abundantly. However, the ranking of Lebanon is a little bit behind in the last few years, and this is due to different elements that played a major role in this decrease. We used to be on top of Arab world and Arab countries in freedom of expression, and if you go back to 2002, we were ranking the first in Arab countries in the 56th rank in freedom of expression. Now we are ranked in the 107th out of 180 countries. Two reasons. First of all, maybe some other countries, they had some efforts to push their ranking ahead, and this is why they are advancing now. And secondly, we have some, as I mentioned, some indicators, some key indicators that we need to work on in order to retrieve our good ranking. And when we talk of some of these factors, mainly I can say the role of digital media that is abundant nowadays. However, it's not included under the cap of the media law that we have, that is amended the last amendment was done in 1994, so it's outdated a little bit, especially that this industry is evolving swiftly. So the first thing to do is to amend the media law as proposed by the Ministry of Information a few months ago, to include the digital media under the cap of a general and comprehensive media law that have it all and that has it all, and that regulates all types of media regardless of the outlet used. And secondly, the repercussions of this lack of regulations is always the prosecution of these journalists, not at the media tribunal, but under for example, the Ministry of Interior's offices, or under different provisions that are not relevant to journalists. So basically, I think it will be regulated once the media law is issued.
As we know, Lebanon is going through one of the worst economic crises in the world. What are the caretaker government's plans to improve the situation moving forward?
As you mentioned, Linda, Lebanon, as also classified by the World Bank, it's one of the third worst crises in the world since 1850. So since the 19th century. What needs to be done, I believe that we need to work anytime, regardless of whether it's a caretaker government or not, because things need to be done. Everything is urgent now. Everything is important, and we cannot keep the economy and the social life droning and only watching it. They say that IMF and other international donors they cannot deal with caretaker government, and they push for forming a new government. Yet I believe that anytime we can get this support, this international support, but we have two conditions. First of all, we need to work in consolidated efforts internally, because we cannot work apart without have this cooperation, intergovernmental cooperation, and this agreement, internal agreement, before going abroad. And secondly, when getting the international donations, we need to work on specific projects, and these specific projects should guarantee the also good implementation of these projects, and they should be handled by trusted parties. And at the Ministry of Information, we witnessed such an exposure, and we proved that the Ministry of Information has been trusted by international donors since we managed to get the cooperation and also the support of the French government. So to getting funds is based on trust, and to get the trust we need to have trusted people, and we need to have trusted projects, and we need to have a good strategic plan for each project. And this is what we did, and what we proved to have in the Ministry of Information, because we managed to get the cooperation and the collaboration with the French government, and via the French embassy in Lebanon, headed by Her Excellency Angriot. And we managed to get the cooperation also with INA France, Institut National d'Audiovisuel, in order to have a digital archiving system system at the Ministry of Information and at Tele-Liban. So this digitization is a pioneer project for preserving the heritage, the cultural heritage of Lebanon regarding media material going back to maybe 1938 or maybe before. This is a major step that proves that once you have the plan, once you have the perseverance, once you have this trusted image, they can put their hand into your hand. As I said, we need to retrieve this trust, because any investor, any project can't be done without having a trust. And usually, based on different empirical studies, I can say that political stability is a major issue in any investment to take place in any country. So investors, they don't look for example, tax havens, or they don't look to decrease their cost. They need stability. They need this good environment to ensure a good economic projects. So I think that first of all, we need to stop these debates, these political debates on media. We need to be more transparent in everything we do to bring back this trust. We need to form the government. This is not the single solution, but at least we can proceed with forming a trustworthy government that can have reform plans on top of its priorities. And once we have all this, with time, I think trust can be retained, and we can get back all the investments that we aim at, and definitely working on sustainable development and not on short-term expenditures that lead to nothing. Because when we say, for example, having these subsidies or having these social net plans for needy people, I believe this is a short-term objective that doesn't lead to a sustainable development or any growth. We need to work on really productive projects. We need to teach people how to fish instead of providing them with a fish per day, and we need to ensure more exportation instead on relying on importation and on foreign production. And I think it's a whole system that needs to be restructured.
The international community, including the IMF, have made it clear that funds will not be dispersed to Lebanon until a new government is formed. Money, of course, which is necessary to salvage Lebanon's crumbling economy. So, has the country received foreign aid nonetheless? And if yes, can you elaborate?
If we say country, we have to distinguish between public and private sector, because when it comes to donations, a lot of donation has been donated to NGOs and to private sector, and some also to the army. And as I already mentioned, we had a part with some donations and some grants from some countries like France, or also India. We are working with them, and many others that are working maybe per piece and not as a whole government. But this is few regarding the needs. If we compare what we need versus what we are getting or what we have, it's little. And I believe also that working on a sustainable development and sustainable growth requires our own projects to see the light, and requires investments to ensure also employability, more employability, and more encouragement of this venture capital that is now shy in Lebanon due to this lack of trust.
One last question for you, Dr. Manal. Lebanese people who emigrate are known to be successful and thrive abroad, in other countries that they emigrate to. In fact, most of them are helping their families back home today. Most of them come here on holiday, they spend money, they kind of, help the economy in the best way they possibly can. And most of them, in fact, left because they were not given any opportunity to thrive in their motherland. So how long will we keep witnessing this bleeding of talent? And how much longer will this country with so much potential keep relying on international aid?
You have very good questions, because also when it comes to Lebanese expats, it's very hard to see them coming to Lebanon with a tear in their eyes, or suffering from the situation, and seeing their country changing at different fronts and different aspects. What we need to do, we need these talents to come back, but under different circumstances and under different infrastructure. If we keep our country bleeding without any plans in the horizon, we will keep also ensuring these not only capitals, but also human resources fleeing from our country. And this also requires severe measures to be taken and urgent measures to be taken to bail out the financial and fiscal situation, to bail out the monetary also plans, and to get back the economic and fiscal sectors, industries that were really top in the region, and we need to get them to that level again.
Dr. Manal Abdel Samad, Caretaker Information Minister here in Lebanon, thank you so much for joining us today.
DNBC Business Channel.